The morning sun burned hot over the Nevada desert as Captain Jake Morrison stepped out of the transport helicopter. The sand whipped around his boots, and he pulled his hat down tight against the wind. Behind him came his team of 5 specialists, each one chosen for this mission because they were the best at what they did. Dr. Lisa Carter jumped down next, her equipment bag heavy on her shoulder. She was a xenotechnology expert, one of only 12 people on Earth who could make sense of alien machines. Pete Jackson followed her, carrying his translation computers and looking nervous about being so far from his university lab. Amy Brooks came next, her engineer's toolkit clanking as she moved. The woman could fix anything with moving parts, and a few things that did not move at all. The last 2 team members were Danny Rodriguez and Beth Turner. Danny was a mechanic who could build rockets from spare car parts, and Beth knew computers better than most computers knew themselves. Together, the 6 of them made up Earth's best salvage and research team. 3 months ago, something had fallen from the sky and crashed into the desert, with enough force to register on earthquake sensors across 3 states. Military satellites had tracked it coming down, and the first response teams had found something that changed everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. The object was a starship, nearly 2 kilometers long and made from materials that did not exist in any human database. It had been abandoned by its crew, left behind like a broken toy that no one wanted anymore. The aliens who had piloted it were gone, vanished without a trace, leaving only their massive vessel half buried in the sand. Jake looked across the desert at the dig site where hundreds of workers had spent weeks uncovering the ship. Cranes and excavators surrounded the alien hull like metal insects feeding on something much larger than themselves. The ship's dark surface reflected no light, seeming to absorb the desert sun and give nothing back. "There she is," Jake said to his team. "The Harbinger." That was what the military had named it, though they had no idea what the aliens themselves had called their vessel. Intelligence teams had been working around the clock to learn anything they could about the ship and its former occupants, but progress was slow. The alien technology was unlike anything humans had ever encountered. Lisa Carter pulled out her scanning equipment and began taking readings. "Power signature is still active," she said, watching numbers scroll across her screen. "Whatever runs this thing, it does not use fusion or fission like our ships." Pete Jackson was already studying printouts of alien symbols that had been found etched into the hull. "The markings are consistent with what we have seen before," he said. "Same writing system, same basic structure. I think I can work out more of their language if I can get inside and see how they labeled their equipment." Amy Brooks walked up to touch the ship's hull with her bare hand. The metal was cool despite the desert heat, and it felt smooth like glass but looked rough like stone. "The construction is incredible," she said. "I cannot see any welds or joints. It is like they grew this thing instead of building it." Danny Rodriguez was more interested in the practical aspects. "How do we get inside?" he asked. "I do not see any doors or hatches." Beth Turner had her computer out and was trying to detect any signals coming from the ship. "There is definitely something active in there," she said. "Multiple systems running on low power, like it is in sleep mode." Jake gathered his team around him. "Intelligence briefing says the aliens who built this ship belong to something called the Zephyrian Empire. We have intercepted some of their communications, and from what Pete has translated, they consider this vessel to be fundamentally flawed. They called it worthless for combat and abandoned it here rather than waste resources trying to fix it." Lisa looked up from her equipment. "Worthless for combat? This thing is huge. What could be wrong with it?" "That is what we are here to find out," Jake said. "Intelligence wants to know why they left it behind and whether we can learn anything useful from their technology. If we can figure out how their systems work, it might give us an advantage if we ever meet them again." The team spent the rest of the morning searching for a way into the ship. Military engineers had been trying for weeks to find an entrance, but the hull seemed to be one solid piece with no obvious doors or airlocks. It was Amy Brooks who finally solved the puzzle. She was running her hands along the hull, near what looked like it might be the front of the ship, when her fingers found a section that felt different. "There is something here," she called to the others. "The metal is warmer, and it has a slight vibration." Lisa brought her scanners over and confirmed that this section of the hull had different properties. Pete Jackson examined the alien symbols nearby and found markings that he thought might indicate an entrance. After an hour of careful work, they discovered that pressing on certain symbols in a specific sequence caused a section of the hull to simply fade away, revealing a corridor that led into the ship's interior. "How did it do that?" Danny asked, staring at where solid metal had been moments before. "Some kind of molecular phase shifting," Lisa said, though she looked as confused as everyone else. The metal changed from solid to something like a gas, but only in that specific area. The corridor beyond was dark, but their flashlights revealed walls covered with more alien symbols and strange geometric patterns. The air inside was cool and had a metallic taste that made Beth wrinkle her nose. "Atmosphere is breathable," she sighed, checking her readings. "Similar to Earth normal, maybe slightly more oxygen." As they moved deeper into the ship, their lights illuminated rooms and passages that seemed designed for beings much taller than humans. The ceilings were high, and the corridors were wide, giving everything an open feeling despite being inside a spacecraft. The alien architecture followed curves and flowing lines, instead of the straight edges and right angles that humans preferred. Pete Jackson was in heaven as he found room after room filled with alien text and symbols. "This is a complete record of their technology," he said excitedly. "Control panels, instruction manuals, technical diagrams. If I can translate all of this, we will know how everything works." Amy Brooks was more interested in the engineering aspects. She found what looked like maintenance areas where alien crew members had worked on the ship's systems. The tools they had left behind were strange but recognizable, and the equipment they had been maintaining was clearly sophisticated beyond anything humans had built. Lisa Carter made the most important discovery in what appeared to be the ship's central computer core. Banks of alien processors surrounded a central chamber, where holographic displays still showed status information in the alien language. "The computer is still running," she said. "After 3 months, it is still active and monitoring ship systems." Beth Turner connected her equipment to what looked like a data port and immediately got results. "I am getting massive amounts of information," she said. "This computer is more advanced than anything we have on Earth, but it is trying to communicate. It wants to interface with our systems." Jake made the decision to let Beth establish a limited connection between her computer and the alien system. What they learned in the next few hours changed everything they thought they knew about the ship and its former occupants. The alien computer revealed that the ship had been abandoned not because it was broken, but because the Zephyrian Empire considered its design philosophy to be completely wrong. Every system on the ship could be modified, customized, or completely repurposed by the crew. The aliens saw this as chaotic and inefficient, preferring ships where each system had one specific function that never changed. According to the computer records, the Zephyrian military had tried to use the ship in their standard formations and tactics, but its flexible systems had confused their rigid command structure. Rather than learn to adapt, they had declared the ship worthless and left it behind as a failure. "They gave up on it because it was too adaptable," Lisa said, reading through the translated files. "Their entire military doctrine is based on specialization and following predetermined procedures. This ship requires creativity and improvisation, which they apparently cannot handle." Jake looked around at his team and saw the same thought in all their faces. What the aliens saw as a fatal flaw, humans might see as the ultimate advantage. 6 months had passed since the discovery in the Nevada desert, and the alien ship now rested inside a massive underground facility carved into the Colorado mountains. The military had moved it in pieces, each section carefully transported and then reassembled using the ship's own construction protocols that Pete Jackson had managed to translate from the alien computer systems. Chief Engineer Danny Rodriguez stood in the main hangar looking up at the reassembled vessel with pride and exhaustion. He had not slept more than 4 hours a night since arriving at the facility, but the work was too exciting to stop. Around him, the best engineers, programmers, and scientists from around the world worked in teams to understand and modify the alien technology. The ship was no longer called the Harbinger. The research team had renamed it the Pioneer, which seemed more appropriate for humanity's first step into galactic technology. Danny had assembled a team of 40 specialists, each one chosen for their ability to think outside normal parameters and solve problems that had never existed before. Sarah Kim was working in what had been the Alien Navigation Center, trying to understand how the ship's movement systems functioned. She was a test pilot who had flown every experimental aircraft built in the last decade, but this was unlike anything she had ever encountered. The alien navigation computer did not use simple coordinates or flight paths like human spacecraft. Instead, it calculated movement through space using principles that seemed to treat the universe as a flowing river rather than empty void. The original alien crew programmed very predictable flight patterns. Sarah explained to Danny as he visited her workstation. Everything is mathematical and precise, designed for formations where multiple ships move together in predetermined patterns. But look at this. She showed him how the navigation system could be completely reprogrammed to accept flight plans that would seem chaotic to alien minds. I can make this ship dance through space like a fighter jet in atmosphere. The aliens never thought to program it for individual creative flying because their military doctrine does not allow pilots to improvise. In the weapons section, Tony Mitchell was having similar revelations about the ship's combat systems. Tony had spent 15 years designing weapons for the military, and he understood how to make things explode better than almost anyone alive. The alien weapon systems were modular, designed to be reconfigured for different situations, but the original crew had used each weapon type in only one specific way. They had plasma cannons, particle beams, and something that fires controlled gravity fields, Tony told Danny. But they never combined them or used them creatively. Watch this. Tony activated a simulation that showed how human-designed targeting systems could coordinate all the different weapon types simultaneously. Instead of firing each weapon separately like the aliens had done, his modifications allowed the ship to create devastating combination attacks that multiplied the effectiveness of each individual system. The aliens were like someone who owns a complete toolbox but only uses each tool for one specific job, Tony said. We can use these weapons in ways they never imagined. Amy Brooks had made the most significant breakthrough in the engineering sections. She had discovered that every system on the ship was designed to interface with every other system, but the aliens had never taken advantage of this capability. Their rigid thinking had kept each system isolated and specialized, but Amy was connecting things that had never been connected before. The power distribution system can be rerouted in real time, she explained to Danny. During combat, I can take power from life support and redirect it to weapons or shields. The aliens never did this because their safety protocols prevented any system modifications during operation. Amy showed him how she had bypassed the safety protocols and installed manual override controls throughout the ship. A human crew can make changes that would take an alien crew hours of computer authorization. We can adapt this ship's configuration faster than any enemy can respond. Beth Turner was working with the ship's artificial intelligence, which she had discovered was far more advanced than the aliens had realized. The AI was designed to learn and adapt based on crew behavior, but the rigid Zephyrian crew had trained it to follow only predetermined responses. Beth was retraining the AI to think more like a human. The aliens considered this AI defective because it kept trying to suggest improvements and modifications, Beth told Danny. They wanted a computer that followed orders exactly without questioning or suggesting alternatives. But this AI is actually more intelligent than any computer we have ever built. Beth had taught the AI to understand human speech patterns and decision-making processes. Now it could anticipate what the crew needed and automatically reconfigure ship systems to support human-style tactics and strategies. It is like having a crew member who never sleeps and can control every system on the ship simultaneously. The most important discovery came when the team realized that the ship's design was not actually Zephyrian at all. Deep in the computer archives, Pete Jackson found references to an ancient species called the Architects who had built the ship using completely different principles than modern galactic civilizations. The Architects valued adaptability and creative problem-solving above everything else, Pete explained to the assembled team. They built this ship to be operated by crews who could think flexibly and improvise solutions. The Zephyrians acquired it somehow, but they never understood how to use it properly. The Architect design philosophy was perfect for human crews. Where aliens preferred specialization and rigid procedures, humans naturally improvised and adapted. The ship's systems seemed to respond better to human operators than they ever had to their alien owners. Lisa Carter made this discovery while calibrating the ship's sensor arrays. The sensors can be reconfigured to detect anything we want, she said. The aliens use them only for standard military reconnaissance, but we can modify them to scan for specific materials, energy signatures, or even life forms. Lisa had connected the sensor system to human pattern recognition software, which allowed the ship to identify threats and opportunities that alien computers would never notice. Human intuition, combined with alien technology, is incredibly powerful. We can see things in sensor data that pure logic would miss. The breakthrough moment came when Sarah Kim took the ship on its first test flight with a full human crew. The military had given permission for a brief flight around Earth's orbit, mainly to test the life support and navigation systems. But what happened during that flight proved that humans and the alien ship were perfectly matched. Sarah flew the ship like no alien pilot ever could, using navigation patterns that seemed random but were actually based on human spatial awareness and instinctive movement. The ship responded as if it had been waiting centuries for a crew that understood its true capabilities. The aliens flew this thing like a cargo hauler, Sarah reported over the communication system. But it wants to move like a living creature. Every system is designed to work together in ways that require split-second decision-making and creative thinking. Tony Mitchell tested the weapon systems during the flight, firing at target drones that had been set up for the exercise. His human-modified targeting system destroyed targets faster and more efficiently than alien weapons had ever performed in their own records. The weapon systems are not just tools, Tony reported. They are part of an integrated combat organism. When operated by a crew that can think creatively, this ship becomes something the aliens never imagined. Amy Brooks monitored all the ship's systems during the flight and watched as her modifications proved themselves in real conditions. The manual override controls allowed the human crew to adapt to changing situations faster than any alien crew could have managed. Every system talks to every other system in real time, Amy reported. We can reconfigure this entire ship in seconds. The aliens took hours to make changes that we can implement instantly. Beth Turner's work with the AI showed the most dramatic results. The artificial intelligence had learned to predict human decisions and automatically prepared system modifications before the crew even requested them. The AI is thinking like a human now, Beth reported. It anticipates what we need and has everything ready before we ask. When the Pioneer returned to the facility after its first human-crewed flight, the entire research team knew they had achieved something remarkable. The ship that aliens had considered worthless and abandoned had become something extraordinary in human hands. Danny Rodriguez looked at the alien vessel with new understanding. This ship was never broken, he said to his team. It was just waiting for the right crew. The architects built it for minds that could embrace chaos and find order in improvisation. They built it for humans, even though they probably never met our species. The next phase of the project would be training more human crews and building additional ships based on what they had learned. But first, they needed to test their theories in real conditions. The Pioneer would need to leave Earth's orbit and venture into the galaxy where other alien species waited. Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral and given command of the Pioneer project, made the decision to take the ship on its first interstellar mission. The Pioneer drifted silently through the Alpha Centauri system, its dark hull barely visible against the star field. Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the main display screen as Beth Turner's modified sensor systems mapped everything within 1 billion kilometers. The human crew of 30 operated the ship with an efficiency that would have amazed the 300 alien crew members the vessel had originally been designed to accommodate. 2 weeks had passed since they left Earth's solar system, and the journey had been a perfect test of human adaptation to alien technology. Sarah Kim had piloted the ship through hyperspace, using navigation techniques that combined architect engineering with human intuition, arriving at Alpha Centauri 3, days ahead of schedule. The aliens who built the ship had programmed conservative travel routes that avoided any possibility of navigation errors. But Sarah had found shortcuts through space that alien computers considered too dangerous to attempt. Contact bearing 27 Mark IV. Beth Turner announced from her communication station. 3 ships, definitely Zephyrian configuration. Lisa Carter enhanced the sensor display and confirmed Beth's identification. Zephyrian patrol fleet, probably a standard reconnaissance formation. They are maintaining formation exactly as their military doctrine specifies. Jake studied the alien ships on the screen. Intelligence reports had described Zephyrian vessels as sleek and angular, built for maximum efficiency in their rigid tactical formations. The 3 ships moved through space in a perfect triangle, each one exactly the same distance from the others, following a patrol route that had probably not changed in decades. They have detected us, Tony Mitchell reported from the weapons station. Energy signatures indicate they are charging weapons and raising shields. Pete Jackson was monitoring alien communications and translating their transmissions in real time. They are demanding that we identify ourselves and state our purpose in Zephyrian space. Standard military challenge protocol. Jake made the decision to respond honestly. Tell them we are humans from Earth, operating the ship they abandoned. In our solar system, the response was immediate and angry. Pete's translation equipment struggled to keep up with the rapid alien communications. They are very upset, Pete said. The fleet commander is demanding that we return their property immediately. He says humans are too primitive to understand such technology. What is the commander's name? Jake asked. Veltar, Pete replied. Commander Veltar of the 43rd Patrol Fleet. He is ordering us to surrender the ship and prepare to be boarded. Jake looked around his bridge at the crew members who had spent months learning to operate alien technology in ways the aliens themselves had never mastered. Sarah Kim was ready at the helm, her hands dancing over controls that could make the ship perform maneuvers no Zephyrian pilot would attempt. Tony Mitchell had weapons combinations prepared that alien tactical computers would consider impossible. Amy Brooks stood ready to reroute power and reconfigure systems faster than alien safety protocols would ever permit. "Send a message to Commander Veltar," Jake said. "Tell him that his people abandoned this ship because they declared it worthless. We found it, we fixed it, and now it belongs to us." The alien response was predictable. Veltar declared that no primitive species could possibly understand architect technology, and that humans were clearly using the ship incorrectly. He gave Jake one final chance to surrender before his patrol fleet would take the ship by force. 3 ships against 1, Amy Brooks observed. Standard Zephyrian tactics call for surrounding the enemy and firing from multiple angles to overwhelm. They're shields. That would work against a ship operated by Zephyrian crew, Jake said. But we are not Zephyrians. Sarah, show them what human pilots can do with architect technology. The first skirmish began when Commander Veltar ordered his ships to surround the Pioneer in a standard attack formation. The Zephyrian vessels moved with mechanical precision, each one taking its assigned position, according to tactics that had been successful for their empire for thousands of years. They expected the stolen ship to respond with standard defensive maneuvers, probably attempting to flee or trying to fight all 3 ships simultaneously. Instead, Sarah Kim did something no alien pilot would ever consider. She flew the Pioneer directly toward the largest Zephyrian ship, then at the last moment executed a spiraling roll that brought the human ship alongside the alien vessel with less than 100 meters between their hulls. The proximity was so close that the Zephyrian shields automatically shut down to prevent feedback damage. "Impossible," Pete Jackson translated from the alien communications. "No ship that size can maneuver like that." Tony Mitchell had been waiting for exactly this moment. With the alien shields down and the ships in close proximity, he fired a combination of plasma bursts and gravity field manipulators that struck the Zephyrian vessel in weak points that alien tactical computers never considered vulnerable. Enemy ship was not destroyed, but its weapons and propulsion systems were disabled in seconds. The second Zephyrian ship tried to assist its companion by firing at the Pioneer, but Sarah was already moving. She used the disabled alien vessel as cover while accelerating in a spiral pattern that kept the human ship protected while closing distance with the second attacker. The Zephyrian pilot followed standard evasion procedures, which made his movements predictable to Beth Turner's enhanced sensors. "He is going to turn left in 3 seconds, Beth announced, her sensor analysis combined with human pattern recognition allowing her to predict alien behavior. Sarah was ready for the turn and intercepted the Zephyrian ship before it could complete its maneuver. Tony's weapons struck the second alien vessel before its shields could adjust to the new attack angle, disabling its main engines and leaving it drifting helplessly. The third Zephyrian ship, commanded by Veltar himself, tried a different approach. Instead of closing for combat, he began backing away while firing long-range weapons at the Pioneer. This was textbook Zephyrian tactics when facing a superior opponent, and it might have worked against another alien crew. But Chris Parker, the Pioneer's human navigator, had been studying the alien ship's movement patterns since the beginning of the engagement. "He is following evasion pattern 7, Chris announced. "I can predict where he will be in 30 seconds. Lisa Carter had been modifying the sensor arrays during the combat, calibrating them to track the specific energy signatures of Zephyrian technology. "I have a perfect lock on his position and course," she reported. Amy Brooks rerouted power from the life support systems to the weapons arrays, giving Tony Mitchell more firepower than the alien ship's computer models indicated the Pioneer should possess. "Full power to weapons," she announced. "We can maintain this level for approximately 4 minutes." Jake made the tactical decision that ended the engagement. Instead of chasing Veltar's ship through a conventional pursuit, he ordered Sarah to use the Pioneer's superior maneuverability to circle around and approach the alien vessel from an unexpected angle. Tony fired a spread of different weapon types that struck the Zephyrian ship simultaneously from multiple directions. The alien shields, designed to deflect attacks coming from predictable angles, were overwhelmed by the unconventional assault. Veltar's ship lost weapons, shields, and propulsion in a matter of seconds, leaving all 3 Zephyrian vessels disabled and helpless. "This is impossible," Pete translated from Veltar's communications. "No crew of 30 beings can operate. A ship designed for 300. No tactical computer can predict such chaotic maneuvers." "How are you doing this?" Jake decided to answer honestly. "We learned to use your abandoned ship the way it was meant to be used. The architects who built it designed every system to work together, but your people kept everything separate and specialized. We connected the systems and trained our crew to think creatively instead of following predetermined procedures." The conversation that followed changed everything both species understood about technology and tactics. Veltar, speaking directly to Jake through Pete's translation equipment, admitted that Zephyrian military doctrine had not changed in over 2,000 years. Their success in conquering other species had convinced them that their methods were perfect and needed no improvement. "But you defeated 3 ships with 1, Veltar said. "You used our own abandoned vessel to accomplish what should have been impossible. How did you know to modify the systems in ways we never considered?" Lisa Carter answered through the communication system. "We did not modify the ship's systems. We used them the way they were designed to be used. Your people never understood that the architects built this vessel for crews who could adapt and improvise." Beth Turner added her own explanation. "The ship's artificial intelligence told us that previous crews never allowed it to suggest improvements or modifications. You trained it to follow orders without thinking, but it was designed to learn and grow with its crew." Amy Brooks explained the engineering modifications that had made their victory possible. "Every system on this ship can connect to every other system, but your people kept them isolated. We removed the barriers and let the ship function as a single integrated organism." Commander Veltar listened to these explanations with growing amazement. News of humanity's victory over the Zephyrian patrol fleet spread across the galaxy faster than anyone expected. Within weeks, every major civilization had heard the story of how 30 humans in a single ship had defeated 3 Zephyrian vessels, using tactics that violated every known principle of space combat. The reaction was not what Jake Morrison and his crew had anticipated. The Galactic Council, a governing body that represented 47 different species, convened an emergency session to discuss what they called the human anomaly. Dr. Angela Ross, who had joined the Pioneer as science officer after the first engagement, monitored their communications from the ship's enhanced sensor array. The council members were not impressed by human ingenuity. They were terrified by human unpredictability. The Zephyrian Empire has maintained galactic stability for over 3,000 years. Angela translated from the council's official broadcasts. Their military doctrine and tactical procedures have been tested in countless conflicts. The idea that a primitive species could defeat them using chaotic methods threatens the foundation of our entire civilization. Jake studied the council's deliberations with growing concern. The galaxy's established powers were not celebrating humanity's achievement. They saw it as a dangerous disruption of the natural order. Species that had followed rigid military and social structures for millennia could not accept that. Adaptability and creativity might be superior to their time-tested methods, but not everyone in the galaxy shared the Council's fears. Beth Turner intercepted encrypted communications from rebel groups and underground movements that had been fighting against established governments for generations. These dissidents were fascinated by humanity's success and eager to learn how human tactics might help their own causes. The most significant contact came from an unexpected source. The hegemony, a coalition of species that had been the Zephyrian Empire's primary opponents for over 1,000 years, sent a secret diplomatic mission to meet with the pioneer. Their ambassador, a being called Keth Prime, arrived in a small, fast ship that used stealth technology to avoid detection by Council forces. "We have been fighting the same war for centuries," Keth Prime explained to Jake through his translation. "Equipment. The Zephyrians attack with predictable formations. We defend with standard countermeasures, and nothing ever changes. Your victory showed us that there might be another way." Jake was cautious about forming alliances so early in humanity's contact with galactic civilization, but he agreed to share some basic information about human tactical thinking. The exchange that followed revealed how fundamentally different human approaches were from anything the galaxy had seen before. "You modify your ship's systems during combat?" Keth Prime asked in amazement. "Our safety protocols prevent any system changes unless the ship is docked at a maintenance facility." Amy Brooks explained the human approach to engineering. "We removed the restrictions that prevented real-time modifications. In combat, the ability to adapt systems quickly is more important than following safety procedures." "But what if your crew makes an error?" Keth Prime wanted to know. "What if they damage critical systems while trying to improvise repairs?" "Then we fix the damage and learn from the mistake," Amy replied. "Your people seem to think that preventing all errors is more important than maintaining flexibility." Sarah Kim demonstrated human piloting techniques using the ship's simulator, showing Keth Prime how human pilots combine instinct with technology to achieve maneuvers that alien computers considered impossible. The hegemony ambassador watched in fascination as Sarah flew attack patterns that seemed random but were actually based on human spatial awareness and decision-making processes. "Your pilots do not follow predetermined flight plans?" Keth Prime asked. "We use flight plans as starting points," Sarah explained. "But in combat, conditions change faster than any plan can account for. Human pilots learn to improvise based on what they see and feel, not just what computers tell them." The most revelatory exchange came when Dr. Angela Ross shared her discoveries about the ship's artificial intelligence. She had been working with Beth Turner to understand why the AI responded so much better to human crew members than it ever had to its alien operators. "The architects who built this ship designed the AI to grow and learn from its experiences," Angela explained. "But every species that has operated this vessel tried to limit the AI's development because they feared losing control." Keth Prime listened with growing excitement as Angela described how the human crew had allowed the AI to evolve beyond its original programming. "You permit your computer to think independently?" "We encourage it," Beth Turner added. "The AI has access to all ship systems and can process information faster than any biological crew member. When we let it think creatively instead of just following orders, it becomes an incredibly valuable crew member." The hegemony ambassador spent 3 days aboard the Pioneer, observing how the human crew operated and learning about their approach to technology and tactics. When he prepared to leave, Keth Prime made an offer that would change the balance of power in the galaxy. "My people want to propose an alliance," he said to Jake. "Not a formal treaty that the Galactic Council would detect, but a sharing of knowledge and resources. We can provide information about galactic politics and alien technologies. In return, we hope to learn your methods of adaptive thinking and flexible tactics." Jake agreed to consider the proposal, but he wanted to consult with Earth's government before making any commitments. The decision was complicated by another development that Dr. Angela Ross discovered while analyzing the ship's historical databases. "I found something in the architect records," Angela told Jake privately. This ship is not unique. The architects built hundreds of vessels using the same design philosophy, but they have all been abandoned or destroyed by species that could not understand how to use them properly. Angela had located references to 17 other architect ships that had been discovered by various galactic civilizations over the past 5,000 years. In every case, the finders had eventually abandoned the vessels after declaring them defective or impossible to operate effectively. The architects were not just another alien species, Angela continued. They were the galaxy's first great civilization, and they built their technology to be used by minds that could think creatively and adapt to changing conditions. When they disappeared, later species tried to use architect technology with their own rigid thinking patterns. This discovery explained why the Pioneer responded so well to human operation. The architects had apparently shared humanity's preference for adaptability and creative problem-solving, even though the two species had never met. Their technology was designed for exactly the kind of minds that humans possessed. We need to find the other architect ships, Jake realized. If they are all sitting abandoned because other species cannot use them properly, we could potentially operate an entire fleet. Amy Brooks was already working on modifications that would allow human crews to operate multiple architect vessels simultaneously. The ship's AI can be networked with other AIs, she explained. A single human crew could potentially coordinate several ships working together. But the most important development came when Pete Jackson finished translating a complete architect technical manual that had been hidden in the ship's deepest archives. The manual revealed construction techniques that would allow humans to build new vessels using architect principles combined with human engineering approaches. The architects left us a complete blueprint for their technology, Pete announced to the crew. We do not just have one ship. We have the knowledge to build as many ships as we need. Tony Mitchell was fascinated by the weapons technology described in the manual. The architects had weapon systems that could be reconfigured in ways no modern species has imagined. We could build ships that adapt their armaments based on whatever threats they encounter. Lisa Carter found references to sensor and communication systems that could be integrated across multiple vessels, creating fleet-wide networks that would allow human crews to coordinate attacks and defenses in real time. Imagine a fleet where every ship knows what every other ship is doing instantly, she said. We could coordinate tactics that would be impossible for traditional rigid formations. Jake realized that humanity was about to become a major power in galactic politics, whether they wanted to or not. The architect technology gave them capabilities that no other species possessed, and their human adaptability allowed them to use those capabilities in ways that would seem impossible to alien minds. But with great power came great danger. The Galactic Council was already discussing military action to prevent humanity from disrupting the established order. The Zephyrian Empire was mobilizing massive fleets to reclaim what they considered stolen property, and dozens of rebel groups throughout the galaxy were hoping to use human tactics to overthrow their own governments. We are about to become the center of the biggest conflict this galaxy has ever seen, Jake told his crew. Every established power will want to destroy us, and every rebel group will want to use us. The question is whether we can build enough ships and train enough crews to defend ourselves before everyone else decides to attack. 2 years after humanity's first encounter with the Zephyrian patrol fleet, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Pioneer, watching Earth's moon through the main view screen. The lunar surface was no longer the gray wasteland that humans had known for centuries. Now it bristled with defensive installations built using a combination of human engineering and alien technology that should not have been possible according to every known principle of construction. The human fleet had grown to 27 vessels, each one unique and impossible by galactic standards. Some were captured alien ships that had been completely rebuilt using architect principles. Others were entirely new constructions that combined human creativity with technologies borrowed from a dozen different species. All of them were crewed by humans who had learned to think beyond the limitations that constrained every other civilization in the galaxy. "Fleet status report," Jake requested from his communications officer. "All 27 ships are operational and ready," came the response. "Captain Martinez reports that the converted Hegemony destroyer has completed weapons integration. Captain Foster confirms that the new construction vessels have passed all system tests. We have approximately 800 crew members total across the entire fleet. 800 humans operating 27 ships that would normally require over 6,000 alien crew members to function properly. But human adaptability combined with architect technology had made the impossible routine. Each ship's I had evolved to think more like a human partner than a computer system, anticipating crew needs and automatically coordinating with other vessels in the fleet. Beth Turner, now promoted to admiral and commanding the communications division, reported the latest intelligence from their sensor networks. Long-range sensors detect the Zephyrian invasion fleet at the edge of the solar system. Confirmed count is 512 vessels, including battle cruisers, destroyers, and support ships. They will reach Earth's orbital zone in approximately 6 hours. The Zephyrian Empire had finally decided to solve their human problem with overwhelming force. For 2 years, they had watched humanity's influence spread across the galaxy as rebel groups learned human tactics, and hegemony forces used adaptive strategies to win battles they had been losing for centuries. The rigid order that had maintained galactic stability for millennia was crumbling as more species discovered that creativity and flexibility could defeat traditional military doctrine. "What about our allies?" Jake asked. "The hegemony fleet is positioned behind Jupiter with 48 ships," Beth replied. "They are waiting for our signal to begin coordinated attacks." 3 rebel coalitions have provided intelligence about Zephyrian fleet movements, and the Keth Prime has confirmed that several neutral species are willing to join us if we can prove that the Zephyrian Empire can be defeated. Dr. Angela Ross, now the fleet's chief science officer, had spent the past year developing new technologies that combined architect engineering with human innovation. Her teams had created weapons that could adapt their effects based on target analysis, shields that could reconfigure themselves to deflect different types of attacks, and propulsion systems that allowed human ships to move through space in ways that alien computers could not predict or counter. "The lunar defense grid is fully operational," Angela reported. "We have integrated human orbital platforms with captured alien technology and architect construction techniques. The result is a defensive system that can adapt its configuration in real time based on attack patterns." Tony Mitchell had become the fleet's tactical coordinator, developing attack strategies that took advantage of human unpredictability and alien overconfidence. His simulations showed that human ships could use unconventional tactics to defeat much larger enemy forces, but only if they maintained the element of surprise and prevented the aliens from adapting to human methods. "The Zephyrians are approaching in standard invasion formation," Tony observed. "Multiple battle groups arranged in precise geometric patterns, with support vessels providing overlapping defensive coverage. They expect us to meet them with conventional fleet tactics. They have no idea what they are about to encounter," Jake said with grim satisfaction. "Sarah, signal the fleet to begin dispersal pattern 7. Sarah Kim, now captain of her own vessel, but still serving as the fleet's primary tactical pilot, coordinated the human ships as they moved into positions that would seem chaotic to alien observers. Instead of forming defensive lines or battle formations, the human vessels scattered throughout the solar system using flight paths that appeared random but were actually calculated to provide maximum tactical flexibility. Amy Brooks had revolutionized fleet engineering by creating real-time system sharing between ships. Now any vessel in the human fleet could instantly reconfigure its systems based on what other ships were experiencing. If one ship developed an effective defense against a particular weapon type, all ships in the fleet could automatically implement the same defense within seconds. All ships report ready for adaptive combat protocols, Amy announced. Fleet-wide system integration is active and responsive. The battle began when the Zephyrian fleet entered the orbit of Mars and encountered the first human defensive positions. What they found was not the desperate last stand they had expected, but something that challenged every assumption they held about space combat. The human ships did not form battle lines or attempt to match the alien fleet in direct confrontation. Instead, they used hit-and-run tactics that took advantage of their superior maneuverability and adaptive systems. Single human vessels would appear from unexpected angles, strike with weapons combinations that alien shields were not designed to deflect and disappear before the Zephyrians could respond effectively. Commander Veltar, now promoted to lead the invasion fleet after his previous encounter with humans, tried to coordinate his forces using standard Zephyrian tactical doctrine. But human ships did not behave according to any predictable pattern, and their weapons' effects seemed to change with each attack. How are they modifying their weapons during combat? Veltar demanded of his tactical officers. Our computer models show that such modifications should take hours to implement. The answer was that human crews were making real-time changes that alien safety protocols would never permit. When Tony Mitchell's analysis showed that Zephyrian shields were vulnerable to a specific frequency of plasma fire, every human ship in the fleet automatically reconfigured their weapons to exploit that weakness. When alien forces adapted their shield frequencies, the humans immediately switched to different attack methods. The space around Earth became a three-dimensional battlefield where human creativity faced alien discipline. The Zephyrian fleet had superior numbers and firepower, but they could not predict or counter human tactics that changed faster than their computer systems could analyze. Dr. Angela Ross activated the lunar defense grid when the alien fleet reached Earth's orbit. What the Zephyrians encountered was a defensive system that violated every known principle of military engineering. Instead of fixed installations that could be targeted and destroyed, they faced weapons platforms that could move, reconfigure, and coordinate with each other in real time. The lunar installations used gravitational manipulation to literally throw asteroids at attacking ships, while simultaneously firing energy weapons that combined human targeting systems with architect power sources. The defensive grid adapted its tactics based on whatever threats it encountered, becoming more effective as the battle progressed. Impossible, Veltar transmitted to his fleet. The humans have converted an entire moon into adaptive weapons. Platform. How did they integrate so many different technologies? The answer was that humans had learned to think beyond the limitations that constrained alien engineering. Where other species saw incompatible technologies that could not be combined, humans saw opportunities to create something entirely new. The turning point came when the Hegemony fleet attacked the Zephyrian forces from behind Jupiter, while human ships coordinated simultaneous strikes from multiple directions. The alien fleet found itself fighting a three-dimensional battle against opponents who refused to follow predictable patterns. Zephyrian battle formations, perfected over thousands of years of warfare, became liabilities when facing enemies who could adapt faster than rigid tactical doctrine could respond. Human ships worked together like a pack of predators, each vessel supporting the others while maintaining individual flexibility. Beth Turner's communications network allowed human commanders to coordinate their attacks in real time while maintaining the tactical flexibility that made their strategies so effective. All ships report successful penetration of alien defensive perimeters, she announced. The Zephyrian fleet is beginning to fragment. The final phase of the battle demonstrated the ultimate effectiveness of human adaptability. As Zephyrian ships were disabled or destroyed, human crews immediately analyzed the alien technology and incorporated useful elements into their own systems. The human fleet became stronger during the battle, learning from every encounter and automatically sharing. Improvements across all vessels.